Hi everybody, Nathan Hensley again with another video in my series of going into debt to make you more wealthy. I know it's been a little while, but I've been on a bit of a holiday break and I have the second part in the series. Feel free to go back to the first part and refresh where I left off on a bit of a cliffhanger about what you guys would need in order to get into debt to increase your net worth. And with that being said, a bit of a slight announcement, a rechristening, a rebranding. I'd like to introduce you to this podcast web series that I'm going to start calling Fun with Financing. And if you're wondering if I came up with that all on my own, I was talking over the holidays with my brother and sister-in-law, and it came up in conversation, and I didn't steal that from anything or anyone. It was just an epiphany, if you will. It just popped into my head, kind of like the Big Bang, if you will. At least that's the theory I'm going to go with here. So with that being said, let me get on to the second part of this, and I'm going to contrast two people named Terry and Barry. Terry the tenant and Barry the buyer. I will get to Barry in a little bit. We're going to focus on Terry right now. And I'm going to concentrate on this. Explain that in a bit. Terry is a tenant. He's a renter. He right now makes $1,000 a month. And Barry also makes $1,000 a month. Now, all of Terry's $1,000 a month goes to rent. Yes, and I know he has to eat and buy clothes and pay utility bills, but for the point of this, he makes $1,000 and he pays $1,000 in rent. Now, Terry, at the beginning of the year, starts off with $3,500 cash. And I'm going to mark this over there with green. $3,500, okay? He starts off with $3,500 right here. And he's a renter, so he does not own the house he lives in. So I'm going to put house 0. So Terry's total assets is his cash, $3,500. Now, on the plus side for Terry, since he doesn't own the house, he doesn't have a mortgage on the place. So a mortgage is 0. Which means that $3,500 cash minus 0 is $3,500 net worth. That's what he starts off with at the beginning of the year. Now, each month, as Terry goes throughout the year, he gets paid $1,000, and then he pays his rent and goes back to $3,500. and he gets paid $1,000 and pays his rent all the way down the line to the end of the year, when he ends up with $3,500. And for simplicity's sake, I'm just going to erase all these. So you know that Terry started off with $3,500 and he ended the year with $3,500. Pretty straightforward, cut and dry. Now, let's move on to Barry. Barry at the beginning of the year also had $3,500, but instead of keeping it as cash, he bought a house and he used that $3,500 as a down payment. So he, at the start of the year, has equity of $3,500. Now, with that down payment of $3,500, Barry was able to buy a $100,000 house. But by using the $3,500 cash for equity, he now has zero cash. So he has $100,000 in assets. But he also got a mortgage to buy that house for the difference between the $3,500 and the $100,000, which would be a mortgage of $96,500. And I'm going to put that way down here. So he's in the hole $96,500. So I'm just going to keep that with red. So mortgage, so at the end of it, you'll see that Barry, the buyer, after you take the $100,000 house from the $96,500 mortgage, he still has $3,500 in net worth. Just like Terry the tenant. But here's where things start to diverge, because like I said at the beginning, Barry also makes $1,000 a month. But the mortgage for $96,500, once you factor in taxes, insurance, principal, interest, PMI, that monthly payment is only $590 a month. Whereas Terry's was, his rent was $1,000 a month. So they cancel each other out. But with Barry, he has $410 left over at the end of each month, which means his cash starts going from zero. He starts off with $3,500 in equity. And at the end of the year, he has paid off roughly $1,900 in the mortgage. So his mortgage goes from $96,500 to $94,600. Whoopee, you say, $1,900. But that $1,900 comes here. So now by the end of the year, Terry has $5,400 of equity in his $100,000 house. He's only paid $590 a month, which means that he's paid roughly $7,080 over the course of the full year to pay off this $1,900 of cash, but he has just over $4,900 left over at the end of the year. So instead of zero cash by the end of the year, he now has $4,900. Actually, it's a little bit more than that. So his mortgage has dropped to $94,500. His cash has gone up by $4,900. So there's here. All right. But wait, there's more. Remember how I've always talked or mentioned in passing about something called the Case-Shiller Index? It tracks home prices up and down throughout the years, throughout the decades. Well, if you go back 30 years, the Case-Shiller Index, and you average out all the returns over those 30 years of home appreciation, the average year-over-year price appreciation is 4.23%. So booms, busts, recessions, depressions, Republicans, Democrats, wars, attacks, fires, whatever, it's 4.23% a year, up and down, rain or shine, on average. That's an average. Now, if in the last year things have gone up over 19% like they have, you got to realize that everything evens out. So it's going to go down 15% to get back to the average of 4% eventually. So with that being said, Barry's house goes from being worth $100,000 at the start of the year to being worth $104,230 on average, as an example, which means his assets are now $109,130 minus $94,500, and that comes out to I need more room. $14,630 just for owning one house for 1 year. It's up here, so that goes up to, it's another 4,230, and everything isn't to scale, so just so you know. So 5,400 plus 4,900 plus 4,230 all come up with 1,460. So he started the year with 3,500 and ends up with over 1,400. That's about a 400% increase in net worth just by going into debt. And that's what I mean by going into debt to increase your net worth. Again, it's all for example's sake. If you like this video, please feel free to share it, especially with people you know who are renting and who are thinking about buying. This might be the thing that gets them off the fence here. And if you have any questions, feel free to comment or call me at the number 260-267-2063. Thank you and have a good day.